You're watching PowerNation.
Welcome to PowerNation Builds. Today, an old school pickup is getting some new school vibes. Here's Truck Tech.
After months of searching, we just picked up our newest project truck, this 1965 Chevrolet C10 Shortbox Fleetside, straight out of Marshall, Texas. We broke the #1 rule of truck buying and pulled the trigger sight unseen. Since this truck had spent its life in sunny Marshall, Texas, we figured it would be pretty solid, even though it's well over 50 years old.
We brought it inside the shop, gave it a once-over, and we were pleasantly surprised to find the sheet metal was in very good shape for its age. The truck was mostly original, with the only major changes being the torch coils and a later model 305 small block. However, we did get the impression this truck was slapped together for a quick sale. Since the truck mechanically checked out, we decided to hit the road and see how this old girl performed. And it was a blast to roll through the gears with the 3 on the tree, although the coils did make the ride a little bumpy.
And even though our truck is a more deluxe model, by today's standards, it's very bare bones. You know, this was just before the days of airbags and traction control and ABS, and man, we're lucky to have an FM radio. And we couldn't end the shakedown without one very important test.
What do you say we burn the rubber off these bad boys?
Why not?
Oh, yeah! Don't stop, baby. Even got smoke on that one.
That's the old one-tire fire. With all the fun out of our system, we got right to work to begin the teardown process. We removed the bumpers, unbolted the bed, disconnected some hoses and wiring underneath the hood, and lifted the cab off, getting down to the rolling chassis.
With all the drivetrain removed, we took a trip to Blast from the Past in Lebanon, Tennessee, where they strip and powder coat a wide range of parts for various applications. The powder coat process starts out with the crushed glass media, which removes all the rust and corrosion. Once prepped and in the booth, the dry powder is electrostatically applied. This allows it to stick to the surface, but will still require a quick bake in the oven to fully cure. And this is the finished product. Nice and clean. We chose the semi-gloss black powder coating for its durability, and it's gonna last a long time. Now, with a little pre-planning, we knew we were gonna have to do some frame modifications. And with the style of suspension we're going with, this front coilover is gonna come right through this cross member, so we had to cut out some holes. We chose to do it before the powder because we didn't want to cut into it after.
We took the same approach on the rear with the C-notch. Our reinforcement also includes an upper coilover mount and a lower panhard bar mount that'll keep the axle located side to side. This kit is actually designed to be 100% bolt-on with the bed still on the truck, but we just figured since we're blasting and coating the frame anyway, why not weld it in ahead of time for a nice slick look.
And that makes this chassis 100% ready to bolt on some parts. We got some unboxing to do.
I got the scissors. We have 2 goals for the suspension on Project Low and Slow, our 65 C10. First is to get it sitting closer to the ground, and second is to improve its handling. We didn't want to mess around with the hassle or complexity of an adjustable air suspension system. So instead, we're installing a QA1 coilover conversion. The upper spring mount bolts onto the cross member and the frame with some existing holes and new provided hardware. The lower coilover mount is bolted to the control arm with a spacer. And the coilover shock slides from underneath the cross member and attaches to the spring mount with a through bolt and some more spacers. The control arm pivots up to meet the other end of the coilover, and all the hardware is tightened up. Up top, the dished spacers slide onto the mounting points, and the control arm slides into place. The lower bump stop and bracket bolt onto the control arm, and the spindle attaches to the lower ball joint. With a little assistance, the springs are compressed. Then, the upper ball joint can be connected.
Over at the table, we'll attach the urethane bushings to the sway bar. Slide on the brackets, and loosely tighten the hardware. The spherical end links attach to the sway bar. Mind grabbing that end over there?
Absolutely.
And the whole thing slides under the front end. And first connects to the lower control arms. Finally, the bracket's attached to the frame. Ooh, this is as low as she's gonna get, huh?
You know, those ballet classes are really starting to pay off.
Yeah, almost fell through too.
I believe that. This floor is pretty rough. You know, it just kind of goes to show what condition this truck is or was in when we picked it up. Somebody really just pulled this out of a field and they slapped it together. These planks, they're actually pretty new. It's just something that they must have had kicking around. They milled it up and they stuck it in. But just, it doesn't match and it's just kind of plain. Really, this is more what we have in mind for the look on the floor of the bed. It still looks rustic, maybe kind of that old barn wood, but just something with a little bit more difference in the color. So let me show you guys what we picked up to make this happen. So about a year and a half ago, I was at the C10 Nationals down in Texas. It was a great show and I had a lot of time to walk through the manufacturers midway and see some of the new products that people had come out with for these trucks. And there was a bedwood floor kit that caught my eye, and that's because there was a big giant graphic completely applied to the floor of the bed. Now that caught my attention because I first of all wondered how the heck do they get that in the bed? Because wood is a tough material to work with. So I stopped and I realized it actually wasn't wood, it was an extruded aluminum bed floor kit from Smoky Road Rod Shop. And that's what we've ordered up here. Now, first of all, it has that nice barnwood texture that we're going for, but there's a couple advantages to using aluminum. Number one, it's lightweight. This stuff is extruded and it weighs almost nothing. Most traditional bedwood floor kits, well, they're made from hardwood and that's very heavy. So if you want a fast truck, lightweight is your friend. And the other advantage to this system is how clean it's going to look when it's installed. There are no exposed fasteners on these rails at all. There's a small groove on the back of the extrusion that the hardware is going to go into that holds everything nice and tight and has a nice clean look. And on top of that, we had our logo put in the bed, Project Low and Slow, so this thing is going to look great. So as soon as we take the bed floor out of this thing, there's really going to be nothing that holds it in place. Basically, it could just flop over. All our bed sides will be sitting on the ground. So you take two straps and you run them at a diagonal, and they're going to keep this thing nice and square so nothing falls apart.
Coming up next, the guys have some new school upgrades that are perfect for this bow tie.
Austin, you got to check this bed floor out. It's looking great.
I like it, I like it. Well, dude, I just got finished prepping these, scuffed them up with the DA, but honestly, I still don't know which route I'm taking as far as finish.
Well, I mean, I guess you got a couple different options, right? Number one, you could do the whole fake patina thing. You know, we've done that before. Basically, you spray a little bit of red oxide primer on there. You put some color on top and you sand through it in a couple different areas. But the thing is, it wouldn't match. It would almost stick out worse than it would blend in.
For sure, and it's not the style of the truck, right? We have the real patina and then some newly fresh painted stuff. We know black doesn't look right because they were E-coated in black and it was just a little off. If it was a rat rod, I would just say, hey, let's call it a day and bolt them up like it is.
Well, we just got to pick a color then to paint both the tubs and the strips and blend it all in.
Yeah, I've been thinking, and I honestly think it would look good if we carry that white over on the back because it's a new part. So
still have the same pearl and the clear coat for a nice glossy look?
Nice and shiny. Okie doke, let's see what we actually working with here.
Honestly, I'm digging it. I mean, the white just kind of flows from the roof to the strips to the tubs and works with a wood grain. It just works.
Dude, I am too. When this was 12 foot over that way, it was a bit much and it looked weird. But now that it's on the truck, it flows. I like it.
I know what you mean. Just having it on the truck makes a huge difference. But I guess all we got to do is put a hole in the floor for the filler neck and we're done.
For sure, that'll wrap up the rear. And what do you say we go see where they at with the motor?
Check wide open throttle, Mike. All right.
I've got to say, Pat, this thing looks a heck of a lot different from the last time we saw it torn apart on the bench. You know, the first thing I noticed is there's no turbo on it yet, so I guess you're doing a pull naturally aspirated first,
Well,
huh?
the idea with that is to keep it simple. I want to make sure it has no oil leaks, no water leaks, and not that the turbo is a big factor in that. We want to keep it as simple as possible so there's nothing that's gonna make a funny noise, and it's hard to tell when there's a turbo involved. So, but now it's been run, and we're actually ready to make some power pulls.
For sure, and this will give us a good baseline. That way, when we throw the boost to it, we know what to actually expect.
Right.
Exactly. Well, they think this looks great, and I'm really excited to hear how it sounds. So what do you say we go make a couple pulls on it?
I love it. Have you ever heard one of these run before?
Oh, absolutely.
Not like this, you haven't.
Yeah, that's where it starts to sound good.
It sounds like an airplane.
Awesome oil pressure, everything. Let's see what we got.
You guys will hate me for saying this, but that almost sounds like a Skyline motor.
You shut your trap.
269.
Wow, 220 horsepower. So these came from the factory with like what, 165, right?
Yeah, 160, 165 is what we looked up, you know.
This thing has way less compression. It does have better flow in head, but other than that, you know, it's already 60 horse above what it came from.
Yeah,
the factory.
not even 8 to 1 on the compression,
Yeah.
huh?
All right. All the vitals, everything looks good. You guys got to rock, paper, and scissor it for the first one to the console.
All right.
I'm out.
Okay, I never done this before. Mike, come back.
This thing, you don't even have to get the gas pedal. Hit the,
Yeah.
just hit starter. Watch what happens. No, you got to hold it. The most important thing on this is oil pressure. Obviously, you want it, if that goes down at any point, you abort the pull.
What I want to hit on.
Okay,
When
now,
you go to full throttle and you see the RPM stabilize at 2 grand, you hit D, and that starts your sweep. When it gets up to
Got
the
it.
5,000, you'll hear the brake pull the engine down. Just pull out of it. That's all you got to do.
keep going, keep going, keep going. All the way open. Okay, D. Hold on to it. Now watch this. Don't worry about anything else. Just there.
Perfect. Nice.
I like
Nicely done.
So, okay, cool.
Scaring the bejesus out of me.
220. See, your pull was better than mine.
220?
Dude, that's awesome. 220.
This is pretty nice, yep.
That's a consistent little dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right, LT, it's your turn to drive.
Hey, sign me up.
Less talking, more driving. Let's go.
All right.
Hey, you know, the coolest thing about this whole project is we never really set out to make a ton of horsepower. You know, we just wanted something that was oddball, and I definitely think that we got it.
I think Pat's about to slap you in the back of the head.
You're messing around. Come on. You got him.
Come on, Dad. Where's the throttle?
S,
S.
activate,
Activate.
start.
Start.
I just like an old pro. Look at you go.
Holding it too long like that puts a lot of heat in the combustion chamber. It'll kill power.
There you go.
219, 269.
All
Man,
right.
that thing it is printing numbers.
Yeah.
It's very, very consistent.
So the engine's broken. It's making awesome power for, you know, NA with the compression before the turbo. With the valve spring change, I think we're on the knocking on the door over 400 easy.
All right, well, what are you
think
waiting
so.
for? Let's get the turbo and bolt it on.
Yeah, dude.
Come on.
It's not
That easy.
It's not
It's-
that easy.
oh, you guys make it sound complicated.
Oh my God.
Finally, we installed the turbocharger and intercooler and made a few more hits on the dyno where it laid down an impressive 376 horsepower and 510 pounds of torque at only 10.5 pounds of boost.
Up next, it's more classic styling with fresh attitude for Project Low and Slow.
So we're now at the point of a build where everything basically gets easier, and that's because all the hard work is done. The fab work for the turbo setup is complete. The engine, we know it runs, and we know it doesn't leak, and we know exactly how much horsepower it's gonna make. So the only thing we have to do is bolt all the parts back in place, and we're headed down the road.
And that's the best thing about these old trucks. You have all the room in the world in this engine bay to work. You can route your plumbing, run your wires, put my big old hands in there without busting knuckles, and obviously, this straight six help matters too, you know?
And speaking of the straight six, a lot of people are gonna look at this and say, why did you go with a throwaway engine? For many, many years, if you bought a truck that had a straight six underneath the hood, the first thing you're gonna do is take that thing out and throw in a big block, a small block, or nowadays probably an LS. But a small displacement engine with forced induction is actually coming around again, and a lot of the manufacturers are using engines just like this today.
Yeah, it's kind of like that old pair of corduroy pants you got hiding in the closet. Trendy. And the six-cylinder is no different. It's more popular now than ever. And that's for fuel efficiency. You add turbos, you put power adders, you still get those mid-level ranges of horsepower, and they're torquey, and that's the thing that makes them fun to drive.
And if you want just a little bit of extra torque, well, that's easy. All you gotta do is mess with a wastegate and put a little more spring pressure on top of this thing. Your boost level goes up, and so does your horsepower and torque. Now, for our particular engine, we are kind of near the limit because we have stock connecting rods and a stock crankshaft. But just in general terms, that's one reason why turbocharging is so popular.
And speaking of boost, time to cool it down and slap that intercooler up front.
In order to eliminate any possibility of leaking silicone couplers, we went ahead and we welded the end charge pipes onto the tank. That ensures a nice leak-free connection and just kind of looks cool as well. Now, we did mount the intercooler up front because there is no space behind the grill. And when we first put this in, we thought, you know what? We could almost run this as the grill of the truck. But the problem was the headlights. We didn't really have a nice, clean way to mount the buckets and have it look right. So you might ask yourself, why is an intercooler important? Well, it's simple. It's physics. That turbo up there, as nice as it looks, it's going to make the intake air charge nice and hot. So just about every vehicle on the road with a turbocharger uses an intercooler to bring down the temperature of the air. Increases the density, increases the oxygen content, and increases the capacity for horsepower.
Now, we decided to close up the front of this old girl with an original look, and to do that, we're using this reproduction grille. Now, this chrome work is gonna match the front bumper, some of the chrome trim on the wheels, and some of the other accents we got on the truck. And best of all, in my opinion, it'll cover up that intercooler, which will make it not look so aftermarket. It'll still have that classic truck vibe, but sporting a turbo. Now, I was able to reuse the original headlight buckets. They're in good shape, just had to tweak them a little to get them to work. But the original headlight retainer rings, well, these things have seen better days, so we got to order some new ones. And that is going to be to mount these new projector LED headlights. Once they're in, they're going to look pretty cool, and we'll definitely be able to see cruising at night. So let's just wrap up this grill and call her a day. Good on that side?
Looking good, buddy.
All right, 2 more. And they line up.
Up next, our 65 C10 Fleetside gets a boost and then heads to the track.
There is nothing like the feeling you experience when you drive an old classic truck. And driving this 1965 C10 that me and old Lawrence built is no different. Just because it's a custom-built truck doesn't mean it doesn't still have those same old classic and nostalgic styling cues.
I think my favorite part about this old truck is the sound of it because it's so deceiving or confusing for people. Because think about it, you see an old truck like this and you're gonna think, oh, it's gotta have a V8 under the hood. And then you hear that distinctive inline six sound and that whistle of the turbo and the blow-off valve. I love it. An old rusty truck that drives and handles just like a brand new sports car. Does not get any better than that. We're not the only ones cruising the back roads in a tricked out C10. We asked our buddy, country music artist James Otto to join us in his 66 Resto Mod featured at the SEMA show.
Well, you know, it's a 1966 C10. It was my grandfather's. Spent its whole life on a farm up in North Dakota, and I wanted it to be pro touring truck, and that's the way we built it. I love the old patina look. It's a great look, but this thing needed to look high tech. It needed to look like 2020, and hopefully we accomplished that. It's got an LS under the hood, about 500 horse, 6-speed stick underneath it. It's got ride tech suspension and does everything I need it to do. You know, we found a stock short wheelbase chassis and then did a frame stiffener in it and then did the stage 3 ride tech setup underneath it. So it handles like it's on rails. It's been a blast to drive. I'm having fun with it.
This is probably the coolest comparison that we could have done.
I think so too. The juxtaposition of same body style and ending up in a completely different spot, man, that's what hot rodding's all about.
Got that right. Well, it was great hanging out with James and his beautiful C10, and it's built in a totally different style from this truck here, but they're both perfect examples of classic American iron. Now for our truck, it's time to put it to the test and see how fast it's gonna go in a straight line.
We're about to run a little C10 down the track and see how fast it goes. And I don't know how fast it's gonna go.
Hey, don't break it.
Hope I don't break it. Why you always worried about me breaking everything?
I know you too well.
Do you? Doesn't sound great. So I went the second one. I went to third, it like didn't want it. So I just had to get out of here. LT's gonna be mad at me. Well, you win some, you lose some.
And?
Complications. Don't really know what they are at the moment, but we're gonna take it back to the shop and we're gonna figure it out. That's all part of it. You build it, you break it, you bring it back, figure out what's wrong, and rebuild it.
Some things are just better left unsaid, and I really don't have anything to add. So, yeah, in the trailer and back to the shop.
He's just upset because he didn't get the drive.
With our C10, I was worried that we had damaged the 292. But it turns out the flywheel bolts had backed out, so it was just rattling around. No big deal.
Project Low and Slow is the perfect combination of classic styling and modern attitude. Remember, if you're into street, tracks, or trail, we've got you covered right here on PowerNation Builds.